like so many world leaders and so many people around the world, the Prime Minister will simply be delighted to see what is happening right now in terms of the hostage exchange.
Michael started playing that soundbite. I thought maybe it was Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. But it's some other English person with a car that's not nearly as cool. You know, he had that Jaguar XKE convertible with the British flag on it. That was a fun car. Well, welcome back once again, and happy Monday to you. Hour number three, and I want to jump in because the president very busy in Israel and then in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt today, with Egyptian President al-Sisi and our very own Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who actually does things unlike Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. And then didn't Joe Biden have a Secretary of State? Blinken. Yeah, Antony Blinken. What did he do for 4 years? He did nothing. Got nothing accomplished. Hillary Clinton, she was busy making excuses for us bombing countries all over the place and using military for their belligerent, angry bunch. They really are. Oh, yeah, Hillary was doing stupid things over the weekend, too. But before we get back to Hillary, maybe we can get back to Hillary. Also, I wanted to follow up on this a little bit because in New York City, the governor there, who's a Democrat, she canceled the Columbus Day parade because it's raining. I don't think that Christopher Columbus would have been held back by a bit of rain in Manhattan. You just call an Uber and it'll be okay. Never mind that. But they have canceled the Columbus Day parade on this Columbus Day, which Democrats like to call Indigenous Peoples Day, because Democrats, it's like the old joke. What did Democrats use to light their homes before candles, right? And the answer is electricity. See, they used to use electricity, and then because they're bringing us back to a pre-modern time. But the Democrats, they don't like Columbus Day. They like Indigenous Peoples Day because they'd prefer a North America where there was no electricity, no architecture, no skyscrapers, no airplanes, no telephones, no shoes, maybe some buckskin sandals here and there. No horses, because, the Europeans brought horses to the Americas, and Native Americans had no horses. They had no medicine. They had no literature. They had no libraries. They had no structures to speak of that stand to this day. Some caves out west, but never mind that. And the Democrats say, oh, yeah, we prefer that. That they prefer that the Americas, North America and South America, be like the San Diego Wild Animal Park with no modernity at all. They're anti-modernity. They are. Yes, they are. But they canceled. The governor, Kathy Hochul, canceled the Columbus Day parade in New York because they're anti-Columbus. There's a Christopher Columbus statue in New York City in Columbus Circle, right by the CNN headquarters on the southwest corner of Central Park, and Democrats vandalize it. That's what they do because they're very unwell. But Kathy Hochul last night said, "Oh, we've got to cancel the Columbus Day parade because it's going to be raining." And I looked at the weather radar just minutes ago, and there are some green, light green blobs going over New York and up the East Coast, the northeastern part of the United States. But there are none of it's yellow, which would mean more intense weather. None of it's red, which would mean more intense weather. None of it's purple. It's just green and mostly light green. But they had to cancel the Columbus Day parade. And really, it's not because it's raining. It's because they're anti-Columbus. That's the problem, one of the problems with the Democrats. They're not on the side of Christopher Columbus because it's, founding fathers. They're the toxic masculinity, right? They're against manliness. They're against normal and normalcy. That's why we sell Remember Normal T-shirts and Remember Normal coffee mugs at the Chris Plant Store. But the New York Post New York City Columbus Day Parade canceled due to New York City's state of emergency. Excuse me, it's actually the state of New York. New York City's 81st annual Columbus Day Parade Monday was canceled due to the governor's, Democrat Kathy Hochul, state of emergency order and inclement weather spurring floods across the tri-state area. The Columbus Citizens Foundation, which organizes the parade through Manhattan, announced the cancellation Sunday, just over 12 hours ahead of its scheduled start time for the Christopher Columbus Parade. The parade won't be rescheduled, the group added. So the Democrats, we couldn't possibly go out. It's raining, and we're all weak. Due to the governor's declaration of a state of emergency this evening, that's last night, in response to the dangerous weather conditions brought on by a nor'easter, including high winds, heavy rain, and flooding in surrounding areas, but not in Manhattan, we must cancel the 81st annual Columbus Day Parade for the safety of all participants and viewers, the Columbus Foundation wrote in a statement. I still blame Kathy Hochul. While we cannot reschedule this year's parade, we look forward to seeing everyone at our 82nd annual parade in 2026. The state of emergency announced by Governor Kathy Hochul, a Democrat, on Sunday evening is in effect for all 5 boroughs, as well as Nassau County, Suffolk County, and Westchester County surrounding the 5 boroughs, the city of New York. But that's just weakness and how weak they are. Very, very weak. We have that. Let me get back to President Trump, a bit of President Trump, because President Trump addressing the Knesset, the 4th American president to address the Knesset, not like I saw on the news. Where did I see it? I'm going to have to go look at my recorded news, see where I saw it. It's like, he's the first president ever to address the Knesset, or he's the 4th. I wasn't writing the script at that time, but President Trump addressing the Knesset in Jerusalem.
We settled 8 wars in 8 months. I'm now including this one, by the way, if that's okay. They may say, well, that was quick, because yesterday I was saying 7, but now I can say 8. The hostages are back. The hostages are back.
Twenty of the 48 hostages have been returned by the savages. Another 28 they believe to be dead bodies. There are 2 that Israel had believed were alive that the savages have now said they murdered, so they're not alive anymore. And the Democrats are just angry and they're lashing out. And in fact, let's keep going here because we have a bit of the media people on this. And, MSDNC, they're just so rabidly anti-Trump that they're mentally ill. Trump derangement syndrome is very real. Now, President Trump, I was watching this morning and I started texting Michael Piercy immediately. And when I heard this, I said, Hillary Clinton. President Trump, I don't think it was in the teleprompter. President Trump decided to drop in a little Hillary Clinton dose.
When you settle 8 wars in 8 months, that means you don't like war. Everyone thought I was going to be brutal. In fact, I remember Hillary Clinton during a debate, she said, look at him. He's going to go to war with everybody. And actually, she said, he's got a personality that's all about war. No, my personality actually is all about stopping wars. And it seems to work.
Now, it's a little bit ironic because I like to point out, because it's true, that Barack Obama, who was given the Nobel Peace Prize for nothing, and President Trump was not given the Nobel Peace Prize for something, but Barack Obama ordered airstrikes on 7 countries, and every time you look this up, they say 7 countries. But I'm more well-informed than everyone on the Internet and all the news media. During his presidency, Barack Obama ordered airstrikes in 7 countries: Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, and Pakistan. Those are all Muslim countries, by the way, 7 countries. And they always leave out that ground forces were sent into the Philippines. So he used the U.S. military to attack radical Islamic jihadi forces in the Philippines. He used the military to attack 8 countries, and Hillary Clinton was his chief diplomat for a good portion of his presidency. She was a horrible diplomat, as any schoolchild would be able to predict, but she was horrible and terrible. And Obama used the U.S. military to attack 8 different countries. President Trump is now saying, I brought peace to 8 conflicts. That would be like 16 countries, except one of them is really just Hamas and the terrorist group there. But ended 8 wars, and Hillary Clinton goes on and on about this and that. But the Obama administration, where she was the chief diplomat, they used the U.S. military to attack 8 countries, airstrikes, and 7 of them ground forces in the Philippines. Philippines usually overlooked when the New York Times puts together their list and the Washington Post. My list is correct and accurate. The New York Times, the Washington Post, lazy and corrupt. But never mind that. President Trump having a good time.
We had a very weak administration, worst president in the history of our country by far.
Listen.
And Barack Obama was not far behind, by the way.
Some applause to the Israeli parliament, the Israeli Knesset.
And they did nothing with this incredible document, the Abraham Accords.
The Abraham Accords and peace between Israel and 3 Arab countries in Trump's first term in office. And now look what he's doing. And where are the idiot Democrats chanting in the street, stop the genocide, stop the genocide? Shouldn't they be out there saying, thank you, President Trump, for stopping the genocide? There was never a genocide. They're mentally ill and they lie about everything. President Trump has none of it.
Once you go back a couple of years, if I were in charge and the country was doing what they nobody was going to ask me to speak. Nobody asked Joe Biden to come up and speak, I guarantee you that. And if they did, he would have turned them down, I promise you. He didn't speak. He didn't speak, and he didn't speak well.
That's true. So he's taking shots at Hillary. That's great, and everybody's laughing. Then taking shots at Obama, and everybody applauds, almost everybody. They have an opposition party there, too. They're like Democrats, but maybe, I was going to say stupider, but I'm gonna hold that back. Similarly, equally stupid. And then amazing. So taking shots at Obama, at Biden, and at Hillary, and rightly so. And everybody there acknowledged it. They're laughing. They're clapping. They couldn't agree more. President Trump.
What we're doing now, it could have happened a long time ago, but it was strangled and set back almost irretrievably by the administrations of Barack Obama and then Joe Biden. There was a hatred toward Israel. There was an absolute hatred. The setbacks really started when President Obama signed the Iran nuclear deal. This was a disaster for Israel, and it was a disaster for everyone. And I remember that Bibi Netanyahu came to the United States and worked so hard to try and get Obama not to do that deal. He worked so hard.
He works so hard, and I love it. Taking it to Obama, taking it to Hillary, taking it to Biden. These inept, incompetent, or worse, Democrat Party politicians. Peace through strength, war through weakness, and Joe Biden is weakness. Barack Obama weakness. We use the military all over, the U.S. military against people all over the world. He's one of the bad guys. Barack Obama. You know, from everyday dinners to effortless entertaining to unforgettable gifts, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience. And right now, during their early Black Friday sale, you can get 50% off, half off of the entire Omaha Steaks website, and another 20% off selected favorites at omahasteaks.com. Now, my best girl and I, we love our Omaha Steaks. We love the filet mignons. We cook them up in my grandfather's iron skillet, been seasoned for 70 years now. And now's the time to save big at Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks offers unrivaled quality and variety, and every bite is backed by their 100% guarantee. And they're from Omaha. They're real people, not like New York people. They also carry mouth-watering burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, and delicious desserts, too. Right now, you get to save big with Omaha Steaks because you can go and visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide, the entire website, and an extra 20% off of selected favorites during their early Black Friday sale. And, listen to this, for an extra $35 off because we hang out together, you use the promo code PLANT at checkout, P-L-A-N-T-E, and then you save another $35. Come on, it's unbelievable. Terms apply. See the site for details. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com. Use the promo code PLANT at checkout. Yes, sir. And I've got more President Trump coming on. There's some other news, too. New York in trouble and school board races. Democrats on an exclusive luxury vacation now while the government's closed down. What are we in, day 13 now? Democrats don't care about you or anyone else. Let's go back to the phones, and I've got plenty more to get to in the time that I have remaining. Let's go to Sarah, calling from Eastern Tennessee. Sarah, you are on the Chris Plante Show.
Good morning, sir. I hope you're well and good.
I am. Thank you very kindly.
Well, I have a quick thought. The idea of hitting the Democrats where it hurts is great. It's just not money because they already have it. Mm-hmm. What they don't want to be caught is looking ignorant and having to be held accountable. So maybe President Trump could say, I'll give you 3 working days to get this worked out. Then we're going to have to go on national television because I'm not understanding, the American people aren't understanding. We've got to explain. So you pick a representative, who else to be our representative but our wonderful President Trump, but he can appoint whomever, of course. And then like a debate stage, let's just explain what's behind this. If it is so important to you, let's hear it.
Well, I like it, and I've got to say, Sarah, it might be the president's kind of busy. He's going to have to fly back from Egypt after his time in Israel. Oh, and actually, there's a soundbite I want to play from CBS News over the weekend. As I said, President was the first one to address the Knesset. Wait till you hear this news report I want to play for you in a minute. But maybe an address by the President of the United States to the country, humiliating the Democrats. That would be fun. Reports from the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, are that the troglodytes have handed over some of the dead bodies of the hostages that they kidnapped and tortured and murdered. And they're starting to hand over bodies now. And I want to share this with you because I made a terrible and egregious error earlier today, which was corrected very politely by an Air Force colonel friend of mine and by a nice lady that called in and said, President Trump is not the first American president to address the Israeli Knesset, the Israeli parliament, their legislature. In fact, he's the 4th because Jimmy Carter, with his peace deal that didn't last very long, and then they gunned down Anwar Sadat for signing the peace deal with machine guns at a public event up in Bleachers. I used to work with the one that was there that day. Wonderful woman. She was there that day as a reporter. And then Jimmy Carter's peace deal. Then Bill Clinton's peace deal. He went and addressed, so Jimmy Carter addressed the Israeli Knesset. And then Bill Clinton with his peace deal, and I was at the Clinton White House the day that peace deal was signed on the South Lawn, and I spent a little time that day with Jimmy Carter, who was also there. He had been invited to the White House by the Clinton people, and I spent a little time. I've got some pictures of myself with Jimmy Carter from the North Lawn of the White House from that day, the day of the Bill Clinton peace deal. And then, Bill Clinton was invited to speak to the Israeli Knesset. And then George W. Bush, who was fighting the bad guys in the Middle East after the attacks of September 11th, 2001. George W. Bush was invited to speak to the Knesset, And now Donald Trump is the fourth American president to address the Knesset. And I said earlier, but I saw in more than one place that Donald Trump was the first American president ever to address the Knesset in Israel. And it turns out, Michael Piercy did a little back of the envelope here and found that CBS News has a chief White House correspondent, Weijia Zhang. And Weijia Zhang, the chief White House correspondent for CBS News, was on the television over the weekend, and listen to this.
President Trump plans to head to the Middle East on Sunday. First, he'll go to Egypt to attend the actual signing of that peace agreement.
Wrong.
And then to Israel, where he has accepted an invitation to address the Knesset, which is Israel's parliament. He would be the first American president to do so.
Well, wait a minute. That's CBS News' chief White House correspondent saying that President Trump will be the first American president to address the Knesset, and Weijia Zhang, Weijia wrong, very wrong, Weijia wrong. Also, she said that he would go first to Egypt for the signing of and then he would head to Israel for his address to the Knesset and be the first president ever. He'll be the fourth. Let me see if I can straighten out this chief White House correspondent, Weijia Zhang. President Trump will go first to Israel, where he will address the Knesset, and then he will fly to Egypt, where there will be a signing event, and the president of Egypt will be there, and other Arab leaders from other Arab countries will be there. The prime minister of Israel is not attending because this is a time of Jewish holidays, and the Jewish law, he's not allowed to be working and doing this and that. But isn't that amazing? So Weijia Zhang got it wrong. He's not going to Egypt first, so that's wrong. He's not going to Israel second, so he got that wrong. It's kind of 2 in 1 wrong things. President Trump will address the Knesset, and she said he'll be the first president to do so. In fact, he'll be the fourth president to do so after Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush. But if you get your news from just about anybody out there in Looney World, this is what you get. You get a lot of this. A lot of it is wrong. And I made the mistake of, and I know I saw it in print elsewhere also, that he'll be the first president to address the Knesset, either that or the fourth president to address the Knesset. I should also mention that President Trump, the peacemaker, who didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, but Barack Obama did, will be hosting this Friday. Today is Monday. This coming Friday, he will be hosting the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, who is getting very rich off of American dollars. And the word goes on. And he still dresses like a teenager at the rock concert. That's good. But President Trump will host Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House on Friday. You know why, Michael? Because he wants to stop that war, too, because he's working on stopping that war. Joe Biden, on the other hand, who is it? Even Saturday Night Live on Saturday night before last, was giving Joe Biden and the Biden White House credit for putting together a peace deal between Israel and Gaza, Hamas, the so-called Palestinians, and it was all a lie. It was all a lie. But there is a headline from about a year ago that says, oh, Joe Biden has a peace deal he's putting together. It didn't go anywhere, but he got the headlines. Never mind that. So the president will be hosting Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House later this week. On Friday is the schedule. And also, you should know that President Trump will host the Presidential Medal of Freedom ceremony tomorrow, that's Tuesday, at 4 p.m. to honor Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated when he was shot and killed by a sniper that the Democrat Party had on their leash, and he got off their leash. But we've got that going. So President Trump, very busy trying to stop wars all over the place. What's the big, right? And what did Joe Biden do? What did Barack do? Well, Barack Obama is complaining about what a lion sack of Jawea Barack Obama is with this stuff over the weekend, this video he posted over the weekend of himself babbling falsehoods at the American people about how, I'm terrified about authoritarianism rising around the world. And people trampling free speech rights, which his administration did use the FBI and the intelligence community to target the owners of Facebook and of Twitter, to trample free speech and to prevent truthful and accurate reporting from getting out. They're like the authoritarian pigs that they're criticizing now, right? They have free speech and authoritarianism, and not only were they using the IRS and the FBI and the intelligence community against their political enemies during the 8 years of the Obama administration, but during the Biden administration, same thing going on. And the border czar, Tom Homan, ambushed last year, Joe Biden's last year in office, the FBI going to him with a bag with $50,000 in cash and recording him, and then much later on saying, oh, yeah, we got you. We ambushed you. We set you up, and we've got you taking money. But how did the FBI misrepresent themselves? Did they claim because Tom Homan had a consulting firm and he had clients, and clients paid him money for him consulting for them? So how did the FBI misrepresent themselves? And when are any of these SOBs going to be in handcuffs and dragged away face down? Honestly. Like those naked people in Portland over the weekend on the big bike ride, which was kind of funny. A little bit funny. Well, it's a little bit funny. Isn't that amazing? And also the government shutdown is ongoing as well. What are we in, day 13 now? I think we're in day 13. Is that correct? And the Democrats keep voting to shut the government down, keep the government shut down. We're in day 13 right now. Government shutdown hits day 13 with flight delays and more layoff warnings. And it's all the Democrats' fault, and every news report you read, it's the Republicans' fault. It's good to be a Democrat. You got all these fluffers posing as reporters. The Politico people, left-wing rag in Washington. Democrats are in a GOP shutdown vice. Oh, no, the walls are closing in. I can see that the walls are closing in. The fear is, with military pay no longer looming as a pressure point, little will stop the shutdown from continuing for several more weeks. Well, again, President Trump should address the nation, which he does about 5 times a day in one form or another. Republicans, Politico types on behalf of the Democrat Party, Republicans are ratcheting up pressure on Democrats on multiple fronts as the government shutdown enters a third work week, hoping hardball moves can force a reckoning that cracks the stalemate. They love the word reckoning in the news media these days. The moves come as President Donald Trump took a major pressure point off the table over the weekend, announcing he will shift money around to ensure military members don't miss a paycheck on Wednesday. So the president took unilateral action, going around the corrupt Democrats in the Congress to make sure that our military people will be paid and won't go for 2 weeks, and really it would be a full month without a paycheck if the Democrats had their way. Because they're not on our side, they want a transgender military putting on a musical show in Burkina Faso and nothing more. But Republicans on both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue have sprung into action with other tactics. At the White House, Budget Director Russ Vought announced substantial layoffs Friday, finally making good on 2 weeks of threats. Listen to the language used by the news media when they're talking about Republicans versus the news media talking about Democrats. Fluffers that they are. Apply your chapstick and get to work. On Capitol Hill, Senate Republicans said they will no longer allow Democrats to keep calling up their own stopgap spending bill, funding the government through the end of October, forcing votes only on the GOP-led alternative. It's not the alternative. That's the bill. The Democrats' bill is the alternative. And the Democrats aren't in charge of the Senate or of the House or of the White House. And their bill is just phony show business, but the clowns at Politico treat it with equal gravity, right? Speaker Mike Johnson is continuing to keep the House out of session this week, and he argues Democrats will bear the consequences of closed agencies and most federal workers continuing to miss paychecks. Now, at the same time, the Democrats in Congress are heading to the Napa Valley to stay at a luxury resort $1,100 a night room rate. And that is, as one of our great listeners pointed out, probably a group rate, because it's probably normally much more expensive. But the Democrats in Congress are going to be at this exclusive resort in the Napa Valley and going to wineries and vineyards and having exclusive dinners at very, very expensive restaurants, more than the $1,100 room rate per plate of food. But never mind that, because the news media spins it as, oh, the Democrats have to come here because the Republicans are bad, something like that. But the government shutdown continues, and the Democrats have voted to keep the government shut down 8 times. 8 times. President Trump went around the Democrats to guarantee that our military will continue to be paid. The Democrats want to blow everything up, usually with Molotov cocktails, occasionally in self-immolation. Self-immolation. They do like self-immolation, don't they? So we've got that. Isn't that amazing? Now, I still haven't finished. Let's go to soundbite number 12. Number 12. I don't know what that is in Spanish, or I would say it in Spanish, but I don't know. I can go as far as 10. That's 10. That's as far as I go. 11 and 12, I can't do. Can't do that. Not in Espanol. I'm an English speaker. I'm pretty good with English, though. President Trump, he was going after Hillary Clinton, and then he was going after Joe Biden, and then it occurred to him to go after Barack Obama, and he was right about all of it.
They chose Iran, frankly, over a lot of other good nations, but specifically Israel. And that was the beginning of a very bad period of time. You had Obama go out, and the Iran nuclear deal turned out to be a disaster. And by the way, I terminated the Iran nuclear deal, and I was very proud to do it.
It's true. Barack Obama was Iran's best friend. Barack Obama made sure that Iran, the world's top sponsor of terrorism, got tens and tens of billions of dollars from, well, because the American government said you should go ahead and get all this money, tens of billions that have been frozen because they're terrorists. And then Barack Obama sent them airplanes loaded with cash on pallets, wrapped in that shrink wrap stuff. Isn't that amazing? Now, this morning, K.T. McFarland, who was Deputy National Security Director in the first Trump administration, she was on the television this morning in the 6 a.m. hour, I guess, on the Fox News channel. It might have been the 5 a.m. hour. It's all a blur to me. K.T. McFarland on President Trump and how he got the ball rolling on Middle East peace in the first weeks of his first term in office 8 years ago.
This is all because Donald Trump made a decision the first week of his first term to back a younger generation of Arab leaders. We were in the White House Situation Room and faced a choice, the older generation or the younger ones. The younger ones promised peace, prosperity, peace with Israel, and President Trump took a risk, and he backed them. And so they trusted him. And now, 8 years later, those were the people who then helped President Trump get over the line. It was the Arabs in the Middle East.
And honestly, so many of the older generation have been killed, what with the war and everything, in Gaza, and a couple of them were hit elsewhere, killed elsewhere, like Qatar, because Qatar was providing safe haven to the bad guys. K.T. McFarland, President Trump started this first week of his first term. K.T. McFarland.
And then when President Trump unleashed Israel to destroy Iran. And today, Hamas is isolated and alone. No financial backers, no political backers, no diplomatic backers. And even more so, Hamas is now separated from the Palestinian people.
Which is nice, too. K.T. McFarland is no slouch, no slacker. She's a smart woman. She knows wherever she speaks, and she was in the room at the time in the first term. So now what about the future of the troglodytes from hell, Hamas?
What happens in the future in Gaza? Without Hamas, Gaza will be rebuilt. It's going to be rebuilt and protected and invested in by the countries in the region, but frankly, by the whole world. Hamas is a liability to everybody now. So I think that the prospects of future peace and prosperity in the Middle East are extraordinary. The Middle East could become one of the most important parts of the world as a conduit for trade and peace and prosperity and technology that goes from Europe all the way through to India.
all the way through to India. Remember, Biden was going to build a magic railroad over the Indian Ocean, going to India, a train to India and it had to go over the Indian Ocean. These are not smart people. President Trump's getting it done. He's a deal maker. He's a builder. If anybody can see to it that Gaza will be built, by the way, it's going to be done with Arab money, Arab countries going in there. And then we have to start worrying about them because, well, you know the rest. All right, I ran out of time again. Well, you know, I've got this was kind of a fun one. Socialist Democrat Zohran Mamdani. He's a communist and a jihadi. He was holding an event in Lower Manhattan over the weekend, and a Lower Manhattan resident spotted him and ran over to him to remind him that he hates the Jews and that he's an anti-Semite and that he's a rat like a large rodent. And somebody brought a drum because where there are a bunch of Democrats, somebody always brings a drum.
Anti-Semite! Anti-Semite!
Who brought the drum?
Denounce Sharia law!
Why do you...
Denounce Hezbollah! Denounce it! You can't denounce it!
Denounce Sharia law!
Rat! Anti-Semite!
Denounce Sharia law. Denounce Hezbollah. But you can't do that. And he's yelling at him that he's an anti-Semite. And he's like, well, yeah, I am an anti-Semite. He's fine with that. Also, did you see Ilhan Omar, has a congresswoman and jihadi, has endorsed another jihadi candidate, Omar Fattah, Democratic Socialist America. And he wants to be he's a state senator already. You might think that he's one of the ship hijackers, one of the pirates from Captain Phillips. Not from the movie, though, from the real hijacking of the ship. And the Democrats are running him for mayor of Minneapolis now. He's a state senator. And honestly, you're not the captain now. I'm the captain.